Bugging over a little bit. Okay, so you'll see the first aspect is going to be 1970. Her Mars is going to come along and it's going to square the Sun. And then it'll come along by 81 and square the Jupiter. So she's born with the Mars square the Sun. She has the high profile Sun, status career. I'm the glorious child of my parents. Ta-da! There's the Sun. But her Mars, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. Like the Mars is going to be fighting that or struggling with it. And at the same time, the parents would have been struggling with that. They would have been having that going on. That's the natal transit. That's the parents' transits when she was born. But 1970, so she was born 67, 3 years old, it came up and squared the Sun. So there would have been a struggle for the whole, like really, those 3 years and the next three and the next couple of years. So her starts at 547, it got to 630, about 69. So it's moving pretty fast. So it's just about a year and a bit to get up there, and about a year and a bit past it within the degree of this. And it wasn't until 1981 that it came up. In 81, it squared Jupiter. So her understanding, she's fighting the struggles around where she's living and what she's doing, just as a kid. Okay, trying to do things, there's an abrasive energy. These are probably disruptions happening between the parents and whatever while she's growing up, or with her own strength or not strength as a little baby. But by the time it hits 81, she's 14, and it starts squaring her Jupiter. So she's fighting the understanding of the 10th house parents of status. What am I doing here? I'm doing there. Do I want to travel? It's Mars hitting Jupiter. It's adrenaline that and increases the aggression, increases the passion, it increases the discontent and the ability. I got to fight to get it. I got to get out of this place. I got to go somewhere. I got to move. I got to do something. That's the Mars fighting the Jupiter. Don't tell me I should do this. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? I know, I believe, I understand, and I'm going to have to do this. So there's the doing tied up to the understanding. It's still a square. There's a struggle involved with this. There's a stress involved with this. There's long-term repercussions involved with any of these things. So once 81 passed, it's going down to her third house, how to survive, how to get on. And then by 95, it's conjunct Neptune and opposing her, and shortly conjuncting Neptune, and by 2005, it's opposing the moon. So she has her Neptune opposed the moon. She has the confusion of the past and the codependencies and the complications with the family she grew up in. Her mother had challenges about being a mom, or complications around it. And so her Mars runs into this in 95. And then it opposes the moon 2005. So really this whole period, '95 to 2005, and really it's going to go on a year or so later. Like it's not the 2008 that Mars goes into Sagittarius and gets out of the Scorpio angry face, or the Scorpio judgmental side. She still has the Mars in Scorpio. She's going to have it, but it's going to be more understanding and more adventurous, or it's going to come more through. It brings out the Jupiter, but it's bringing the Mars. The Jupiter starts, her understanding starts guiding her Mars more, and she might have been fighting it, the Mars squaring the Jupiter earlier. So these are the key dates in this process, and I'm just going to look at the closer up one. Yeah, so I just clicked it so you see it more closely. So these are the dates. It's coming. She's right here. It hit the Neptune. That was 95, and the Neptune and then opposed the moon by 2005. But I believe in this point, by this point, she's been in Canada during somewhere in this phase. Came to Canada, and somewhere in here she became the Canadian. She became the Canadian citizen, I think, just after the Neptune phase, or maybe it was right there. So somewhere in here, and then her adventures move forward. But at the same time as the Mars hit the Neptune and opposing the moon, she could be setting up her own complications of Neptune and the moon and lifestyles in reaction to her moon, the way she was brought up to do things differently, the same, whatever. But Mars is kind of pushing one way, the moon's on the other side. How I'm living is the other side. The belief is on this side. So there's a Mars-Neptune belief, which is really a high point, but it's still integrating and living it as a bigger puzzle with the Mars coming up to oppose the moon. That's past now. So you can look back and see these phases a little more clearly. Then it would have been in 2008 that Mars moved from Scorpio into Jupiter. So that either can increase one's understanding or justification of what's right or what's wrong, or but some of the anger, judgment, or competitiveness of the Mars in Scorpio lifts off, and it's a need to travel, need to do things, need to expand on what I go against it, go with a different understanding on things. And that holds pretty steady till 2027. It's the next big Martian thing. And in 2027, well, it entered the third house. It entered the third house it enters the third house in 2020. So it's down here coming out of the second house, going into the third house of studying. So just as that's December, that's a year from now. So we'll be finished our classes just in this period. It's in the sides, the understanding is coming in. And who knows, she could be working third house, traveling, expressing herself, having to do some things, express her understanding. It's pushing to express her teachings, her understanding more and more. And she'll be more confidence and more strength in that. It's not till 27, the next big aspect, when it squares Venus. That's the emotional one, that's 27. So by then, that's age 60. So finances, what am I going to do when I retire? Whatever, what's going to happen? Like that challenge is there then. And the next one's not till 35, and in December 35, in 35, it squares Pluto, and then squares Uranus in 40. So these are pushing in the late 70s. These are changing where I'm going to live. It may not be so much of her choice. Circumstances may be more volatile, disruptive at that time. Okay, so we all get old, like that's the way it goes. So this is part of this process. But you can see the energy level working, and you get this. You see something like this that's coming up, you get this gong. Oh my God, I wonder what that is. But on an inner level, you can't understand what it probably is. And it's not going to make it worse, it's coming to terms with it. And by the time you're going through it, it resolves itself. There's a spiritual teaching within each of these things as it's in your progress chart. And the challenge is, do you listen to the spiritual or do you run away from it? And things will build up and escalate accordingly. But in her life, it's moving steadily to greater depth to the IC. And that's moving more and more away from the midheaven status, but it's more towards where I'm coming from. Where's sample 5? Okay, let me get the next one. Okay, here we go. Okay, sample 5, August 25th, 75. Okay, so here's someone with the Mars in their chart square the Sun and Venus and oppose the Neptune. So there's a big T-square. Mars, Neptune, Venus, Sun. So Mars is in the 5th house in Gemini, very independent, likes to take independent initiatives. However, when can she do what she wants? When people misinterpret what your actions are, who's a friend, who's a lover? Mars opposed Neptune. Who's paying for what to the Venus? So there's really complications around passions, who's reliable, who's not, and around work and kids. But there's almost a need to be dedicated, but there's also a lot of potential confusions and temptations there. Everyone's expecting her to go different ways. And it takes time for her Mars in Gemini to really do its own thing. Okay, it's like to really start moving that Mars squaring the Sun. There's always a battle about what do I want, what don't I want, and why shouldn't I do it, and who's saying I can't, and who's real, who's not. So this is this Neptune struggle. So her Mars is at 6 degrees. Her Sun's and Venus at 2. So this Mars just goes direct. It'll go retrograde later in her life, but it's not, it's moving away from the square to the Sun and the Venus. So it's not getting worse. It's moving away from that, but it's moving into, at first, the opposition to the Neptune. So I'm just going to, we got this, we can see, we got the big T square there, and we're going to come in. So, okay, and looking through this, will the Mars come up? It won't come up to trigger off the other T square that's there, that's in the cardinal signs to the moon. So we'll just